The entire sect was afflicted with a love poison and needed to soak in the cold pool for 3 days to detoxify. The junior sister, who was a clean freak, refused to share the pool with everyone and threw a tantrum. This time, I didn't try to persuade her again. Instead, I watched as my fiancé and the sect master took out a divine artifact to forcibly set up a barrier, insisting that everyone wait for the junior sister to finish soaking first. In the previous life, when the demon clan attacked, everyone in the sect was afflicted with the ancient love poison, lovesick embers. If not resolved, it would inevitably lead to a heart-burning death. Everyone was filled with fear and worry. Yet, the fiancé and the master insisted that everyone wait for the junior sister to finish her bath first. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I joined forces with everyone to break through the barrier. I also taught them my unique cultivation technique. And only on the final day did we successfully restore our spiritual power and defeat the demon clan, securing the position of the #1 sect in the world. But the junior sister got angry, left the sect, and disappeared without a trace. When I saw her again, she had become a cauldron beneath the demon clan. Deprived of her limbs and left to be toyed with at will, my fiancé and master showed no emotion on the surface. Instead, they sneered, just because she threw a tantrum. She nearly brought the entire sect to ruin. Yet on the day of my tribulation, my fiancé deceived me into giving up my protective artifact, and my master personally dug out my golden core. They ignored my pleas, their faces filled with hatred. If it weren't for you rallying everyone to morally pressure us, how could our junior sister have gotten so angry and left? How could she have met such a disastrous fate? This is all your retribution. Go to hell and atone for your sins to her. Only then did I realize that they had always hated me. Once again opening my eyes, I found myself back at the moment when the entire sect was poisoned by the love toxin. I neither made a fuss nor protested, but smiled and let it be. There is another way to resolve the love toxin. But our sect practices the path of heartlessness. This is an ancient love poison. If we don't quickly soak in the cold pool to detoxify, the disciples' spiritual roots will be affected, and they will never be able to cultivate again. Moreover, detoxification takes 3 days, and in 3 days the demon clan will attack again. If we don't detoxify now, it will be too late. Everyone in the sect is affected by the love poison, with flushed cheeks and chaotic breathing. Relying only on their last shred of rationality to suppress their primal urges, they can only hope that the master will open the barrier of the cold pool so the disciples can detoxify as soon as possible. But the master, soaking in the cold pond with one arm around his little disciple Lenny Lu, immediately refused with a stern face without a second thought. Lenny has misophobia and simply cannot accept detoxifying in the same pond with so many of you. She is your little junior sister, so of course you should give in to her. The disciple who spoke was so enraged by the master's self-righteous words that he felt a surge of anger and violently spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing the master so resolute, he could only plead with a beseeching expression. Even if you make us wait 3 days, the 4 elders cannot afford to wait. He was referring to the 4 elders responsible for guarding the Spirit Sword sect, all of whom had reached the divine transformation stage and were the sect's top combatants. Without them, the Spirit Sword sect would not even have the ability to fight the demon clan and would likely be completely slaughtered. The master snorted coldly. Elder Chen can't wait to be cured, but isn't Lenny just as anxious? She has low cultivation and needs to detoxify as soon as possible. The disciples never expected their master to be so stubborn. They could only turn to me and plead, Senior Sister Eden Ling, you are the immortal Venerable's direct disciple and Jace Senior Brother's fiancé. They will surely listen to you. Please ask them to open the barrier, as the guardian of the cold pond. I immediately decided to open it upon hearing that the entire sect had fallen under the influence of a love poison in my previous life. But just because my junior sister claimed she had a cleanliness obsession, the master and Jace used a divine artifact to forcibly seal the cold pond with a barrier, allowing only the 3 of them to detoxify first. Considering the looming threat of the demon clan, I wanted Elder Chen to detoxify from the love poison as soon as possible. So I joined forces with the other disciples to break the barrier, helping them successfully detoxify before the demon clan attacked. Not only did we win the battle between immortals and demons, But we also helped the Spirit Sword sect secure its position as the #1 sect in the world. But during my ascension tribulation, I was deceived by Jace Sai, who stole my protective artifact. This led to my spiritual roots being shattered by 99 heavenly thunderbolts. And I lost all my cultivation. I begged my master to save me, but instead, he tore open my dantian and forcibly extracted my golden core. They looked at my miserable state and instead laughed with delight. Eden Ling, you deserve this. If it weren't for you rallying the disciples to morally coerce us into forcibly breaking the barrier to soak in the cold spring, why would our junior sister have left in anger? She was the pearl we held in the palms of our hands, yet because of you, her limbs were broken, and she became a cauldron for the demons to defile. This is all your retribution. Go to hell and atone for your sins to her. They broke my limbs and threw me into a demon's lair to be toyed with. By the time I breathed my last, there wasn't a single patch of unblemished skin left on my body. And in the end, I became a meal for the demon beasts. Even the heavens took pity on me, granting me a chance at rebirth, instead of busying myself for everyone like in my past life. I offered an awkward yet polite smile. Wow, you're absolutely right. After all, little junior sister has a cleanliness obsession, so we can't force her to accept detoxifying with everyone else. I'll leave this cold spring to you all. I hope you enjoy it thoroughly. With the experience from my past life, I naturally knew that merely soaking in the cold spring wouldn't completely neutralize the love poison. It still required the use of my unique internal technique to circulate energy and detoxify. Otherwise, the toxicity would only grow more intense over time. On the first day, the toxicity penetrates deep into the spiritual veins, causing damage to the spiritual root and making cultivation impossible. On the second day, all cultivation will gradually dissipate as the toxicity deepens. By the third day, one can only endure the agony of being burned by flames and slowly die. The damage caused by this process is irreversible. The true effect of soaking in the cold pool is merely to alleviate the love poison. The most important thing is still my unique inner cultivation technique. I ignored them and walked alone to a corner to meditate quietly, but someone shoved my shoulder hard. What do you mean by not forcing the junior sister? Then what about our love poison, after all? You're just a dog guarding the cold pond. What gives you the right to hand over the entire cold pond to them? You'd better come up with a solution for us, or else get ready to face the whip in the punishment hall. When the master and Jace spoke up for Lenny Lu just now, these people didn't dare to make a sound. I conceded as they suggested, but they ended up venting all their anger on me. With a fierce expression, they cursed and shouted, "Stop pretending to be dead. Didn't you hear what we said?" I glanced at them coldly. Excessive anger and agitation will only fuel the effects of the love poison. If you have such immense resentment, go find a way to break the artifact's barrier instead of yelling at me here. In my previous life, I risked my life, pleading with each of them to join me in breaking the barrier. Yet, after gaining the benefits, they showed no gratitude toward me. Instead, when I was betrayed by my master and Jace, they chose to stand by and watch coldly, mocking me relentlessly. It wasn't us who begged you to break the barrier. How dare you demand repayment for a favor? You brought all of this upon yourself. If it weren't for you, little junior sister wouldn't have suffered so miserably. In that case, of course I won't interfere with any of their affairs anymore, seeing that I no longer took the initiative to shoulder the responsibility. No matter how furious these people were, they could only swallow their anger and stare at the cold pond. Each one of them acted like a turtle retracting into its shell, none daring to step forward. I let out a scornful laugh and ignored them. After a whole night of using my inner energy to expel the poison, my condition had improved significantly. However, the disciples, lacking the unique mental cultivation method I taught, had already been affected by the emotional poison. The disciples with lower cultivation levels couldn't restrain themselves. One of them let out a low roar, tore off his clothes, and was about to charge into the cold pond. Even if blocked by the barrier, they would not stop even if they crashed and bled. Lenny Lu screamed in terror, trembling as she hid in the arms of our master and my fiancé. The master and my fiancé immediately drew their swords and killed these frenzied disciples. Then, with cold expressions, they said, "Whoever dares to go mad and try to compete with Lenny for the cold pool will end up like this." The disciples were stunned, Frozen in place and not daring to move, they took a few steps back from the cold pool. After a while, Lenny Lu took out a small bottle of pink liquid from his chest and poured it all into the cold pool. The fragrance of peach blossoms instantly spread in all directions. The four elders suddenly opened their eyes, their expressions immediately changing. And they quickly rose to their feet, striding toward the cold pool. "Are you insane? What did you pour into the cold pool? Do you not know that the water of the cold pool can only alleviate the love poison because it is pure and extremely cold? By doing this, you've essentially ruined all the cold pool water. If the love poison isn't cured within 3 days, the Spirit Sword sect will be finished." Lenny Lu was so frightened that her eyes turned red, and she quickly hid behind Jace Sai. Looking pitiful as she said, "What just happened scared me too much, and since peach blossom essential oil has a calming effect, I thought of adding some to the cold spring water as well. Besides, I had no idea the cold spring water was so special and would be affected by the essential oil." Senior Sister Eden Ling, as the guardian of the cold spring, never mentioned any of this to me. Lenny Lu pinned all the blame on me with just one sentence. Her soft chest pressed tightly against Jace Sai's back, making him feel dizzy with infatuation. Turning around and seeing my cold gaze, a moment of unease unexpectedly surged in his heart. Jace Sai snorted coldly, his anger flaring with embarrassment. "Why didn't you tell Lenny about such an important matter earlier? Did you just want to see her make a fool of herself and cause trouble? How can you be so petty? How many times have I told you? Lenny is shy and introverted. Isn't it perfectly normal that she can't accept soaking in the cold spring with an unrelated man? Not everyone is as shameless as you, spending all day mingling with the disciples and not even putting your fiancé in your eyes." The four elders were so furious they nearly blacked out. They simply couldn't understand why Jace Sai, a renowned master in the cultivation world and a genius in sword arts, would become so unreasonable whenever it came to Lenny Lu. Lenny Lu was so wronged that tears streamed down her face. "Brother Jace, please don't speak of Senior Sister Eden Ling that way. It's all my fault. If only I had known, I should have given up the cold spring to everyone. After all, I'm just a low-level disciple. No one would care if I died from the torment of the love poison." She scooped up a pot of cold spring water and handed it out. "Before the essential oil fully seeps into the cold pond water, the elders can make do with this for now. I just hope you don't mind that this is my bathwater." This act, which could be considered humiliating, infuriated the four elders to the point where they were so enraged they couldn't even utter a word of rebuke. As soon as they opened their mouths, they suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. This is a sign of extreme anxiety and anger. Seeing that the four elders were truly on the verge of losing control, Lenny Lu had no choice but to quickly defend herself, saying, "I was just joking. I didn't expect the elders to react so strongly. Moreover, I genuinely hope that the cold pool water, which wasn't completely affected by the essential oils, can be of use to the elders." Sob, the master and Jace Sai immediately moved to her side, softly comforting her with a few words. Then turned to glare at me angrily. "Lenny didn't do it on purpose. In the end, isn't it your fault for not telling her about the cold pool, if we're really going to assign blame? The one who caused the elders to suffer from acute anger and anxiety is none other than you." The disciples also chimed in one after another. "Ever since our junior sister joined the sect, she has been jealous of her innocence and charm, and how well liked she is. She must have deliberately hidden the matter of the cold spring. If she had prepared for this situation earlier, we wouldn't even be unable to cure the love poison. Even if we couldn't soak in the cold spring, it seems like just staying near it helps with detoxification. Someone as malicious as her doesn't deserve to be here. Get lost." They still thought it was because staying near the cold spring had taken effect. Little did they know that it was I who led them in meditation and energy circulation to alleviate the love poison. Looking at these detestable faces, I was almost driven to laughter by anger. I couldn't be bothered to argue or explain any further, so I simply turned and left. I found the cave dwelling I had used for secluded cultivation at the cold pond back in the day, dilapidated and narrow, but it wins in being sufficiently concealed, as long as I set up the barrier. Even if the demon clan brings demonic creatures charging up the mountain, they might not necessarily find me. The disciples outside no longer have my unique cultivation method. They simply cannot alleviate the love poison. I want to see how they, who cultivate the path of heartlessness, will break the love poison. I hid in my cave dwelling and continued to meditate and circulate my energy. After all, there really isn't much time left for me. I must do everything in my power to detoxify and restore my cultivation in this final stretch of time. At this moment, from the cold pond outside the cave dwelling, came the sound of a man and a woman laughing and playing. A splash of water was heard. And Lenny Lou said in a coquettish tone, "Master, senior brother, you're so annoying. You know I'm wearing something thin today, yet you still splash water on me. Now I'm practically exposed. How am I supposed to get married in the future?" The disciples widened their eyes, staring at Lenny Lou's drenched appearance like a pack of wolves. Her well-proportioned figure was fully exposed, and her feigned attempt to cover the revealing glimpse at her chest only made the cleavage more obvious. The master and Jace Sai's gazes were almost glued to Lenny Lou, a dark glint flashing in their eyes as they spoke in a low, husky voice. "You are the little princess we hold in the palms of our hands. What does it matter if you don't get married? We will cherish and protect you for a lifetime." Lenny Lou was so delighted that she giggled coquettishly. The flirtatious behavior of these three people agitated the disciples afflicted with the love poison. The atmosphere gradually grew ambiguous and feverish, with everyone's breathing becoming erratic, inadvertently accelerating the onset of the love poison. The ineffective cold spring water not only failed to calm the three of them down, coupled with the lack of mental techniques to circulate their energy and expel the toxins, it instead made them feel increasingly hotter the longer they soaked. Jace Sai, with insufficient cultivation and an unstable Dao heart, was the first to press himself against Lenny Lou. Lenny Lou's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she reached out and pressed a finger against his chest, putting on a coy and teasing act. "Senior brother, don't." Senior sister Eden Ling is still watching. This only made Jace Sai even more excited. Ignoring Lenny Lou's cat-like struggles, he cupped her face and kissed her deeply. The master frowned, intending to scold the two for their behavior, but Lenny Lou had already pressed close to him. Her moist eyes gazed at him, the corners reddened, exuding a charm she was unaware of. Her cherry-pink lips parted slightly, the sweet, cloying scent of peach blossoms growing more distinct. "Master, I feel so unwell. Please help me." Even the usually aloof and detached master, upon seeing this scene, had his last shred of rationality burned away. With a wave of his hand, he tore Lenny Lou's clothes to shreds. The three of them, in broad daylight, lost all sense of time and place. The scent of peach blossom essential oil stirred their desires. Even the surrounding disciples were affected, their minds unsettled, completely losing their rationality. Ambiguous sounds echoed throughout the cold pond valley. Afraid of getting an eye infection, I quickly averted my gaze. After carefully calculating the time, I immediately raised my hand to set up a barrier around the cave dwelling. Sure enough, the very next moment, along with Lenny Lou's high-pitched and charming voice, came a series of footsteps powerful enough to make the mountains tremble. Without the protection of the four elders, the demon clan charged into the Spirit Sword sect as if entering an unguarded territory. Countless demon soldiers surged up from the foot of the mountain, their bloody aura mixed with demonic energy, causing all the plants along the way to wither instantly. Charge, tear the skin from the bones of those Spirit Sword sect cultivators and break their bodies into pieces. The scout monster, following the scent, rushed near the cold pond, drooling over the entangled trio. Lenny Lou was still immersed in the throes of passion, but her dazed, lust-filled eyes froze completely upon meeting a pair of crimson ones. Then, a scream pierced the sky. "Ah, the demons are here." Lenny Lou's scream was so sudden that it startled countless people on the verge of climax, causing them to shudder and completely surrender. Even the revered master was no exception. His face flushed with embarrassment as he hastily pulled his clothes back on. "It's just a mere demon. Lenny, there's no need to be afraid. Today marks the third day of soaking in the cold pool. My poison has been cured, and slaying these demons is as easy as turning over my hand." The master instinctively drew his life-bound sword, intending to channel spiritual energy to cut down these filthy demonic creatures. Yet, as he swept his focus over his dantian, he realized there wasn't a trace of spiritual energy left in his entire body. His face filled with shock and disbelief as he stared at the sword in his hand. "No, this can't be. The love poison was cured. "So why hasn't my spiritual energy returned?" someone said in a trembling voice. "Our spirit sword sect practices the path of heartlessness. Once the vow is broken, all cultivation will be lost." Only then did the master remember the absurd things he had just done under the influence of desire. His face instantly turned pale. Without the spiritual energy imprint, the barrier set up by the divine artifact was also affected, slowly cracking apart. The monster keenly sensed the disappearance of the oppressive aura and immediately bared its fangs, lunging forward. Several disciples who reacted too slowly were caught in the attack, torn to shreds in the blink of an eye. Lenny Lu, however, was well protected by the master and Jace Sai. The three used magical artifacts to conceal their auras. The monsters passed by them several times, seemingly completely unaware of their presence. The disciples quickly pleaded upon seeing this. "Immortal Venerable, Senior Brother Jace, please, think of a way to save us quickly. The four elders are now unconscious, only you can save us." If Lenny Lu hadn't caused trouble and angered the four elders to the point of fainting, the disciples of the Spirit Sword sect wouldn't be so helpless now, but the culprit, Lenny Lu, remained completely unmoved. Instead, she shrank behind her master and Jace Sai, trembling with fear. "Master, Senior Brother, please don't leave me behind, I'll be scared all alone." Her master held her in his arms to comfort her, but when he turned to look at the fleeing disciples, his tone was utterly cold. "Lenny is timid and can't be left alone. As disciples of the Spirit Sword sect, you'll have to find a way to deal with these demons yourselves. Consider this a test of your abilities." Seeing the master and Jace Sai genuinely dedicated to protecting Lenny Lu, while coldly watching them being devoured by the demonic creatures, the disciples felt utterly chilled to the bone. A hot-tempered disciple began to curse frantically. "Lenny Lu, are you insane? Isn't all of this your fault? You trespassed into the forbidden realm, causing the entire sect to be afflicted with the love poison, and then monopolized the cold spring that could detoxify it. Now you're not even willing to let the immortal Venerable and Senior Brother Jace lend us a hand. You vicious woman. Why didn't you die first in the mouth of the demonic creature?" But the next second, he was pierced through the chest by two spiritual swords, blood gushing as he collapsed to the ground. The master and Jace Sai simultaneously withdrew their swords, disgustedly shaking off the blood droplets from the blades. "Who allowed you to insult Lenny? Isn't it only natural for a young girl like her to be timid and in need of protection? If I hear one more bad word about Lenny, I'll kill you before the monsters do." The surviving disciples were completely stunned. Monsters were invading. Yet the revered immortal master and senior brother they once admired had turned their blades against their own people. They were now caught between a rock and a hard place. Someone finally remembered my existence, calling out as they fled, "Where is senior sister Eden Ling? If she were here, she would definitely protect us. Where is senior sister Eden Ling? It's all your fault for driving her away from the cold pond. In the past, I would indeed have risked my life to protect them. Simply because I truly regard every disciple of the Spirit Sword sect as my own family, I meticulously teach them cultivation techniques and, when their progress stagnates and they cannot break through, I search far and wide for spiritual pills, rare herbs, and heavenly treasures, never expecting anything in return. Yet they take my kindness for granted, only showing me a pleasant face when they need something from me. How could there be such a good deal in this world? I simply ignored them and instead cheered on those demonic creatures. Without their cultivation to rely on, these disciples quickly lost the ability to flee, coupled with the untamed love poison in their bodies being triggered. A black-blue flame actually burst out from their chests. They instantly collapsed to the ground, screaming and writhing in agony, some even leaping into the cold pool in an attempt to alleviate the burning pain. It's a pity that the cold pond water, once infused with Lenny Lu's essential oils, had completely lost its efficacy. Before succumbing to the agony of being burned alive, they all turned their furious gazes toward Lenny Lu and the other two, lunging at them without a second thought. They were actually trying to lure the demonic creatures over. This scene of a dog-eat-dog fight was truly a sight to behold. I was so delighted that I clapped my hands, realizing for the first time that this simple and hidden cave was actually a perfect seat for watching the show. Just as the master's magical artifact shattered after being struck too many times by the demonic creatures, and the three of them were about to fall into the monsters' mouths. A pitch-black rift appeared out of thin air, emanating a powerful pressure. The previously fierce and bloodthirsty demonic creatures instantly became as docile as pets, obediently lying flat on the ground. The man emerging from the gap was clad in black, his appearance strikingly handsome yet sinister. His gaze fell upon Lenny Lu and the other two, a cruel smile curling at the corners of his lips. I dislike seeing people stand so straight in my presence. Will you kneel on your own, or shall I break your legs myself? I know this man is the notorious demon lord He Wujie. In my previous life, when I died at the mouth of a demon, I had seen him once. At that time, all my limbs were broken, and my entire body was covered with festering wounds that hadn't been treated in time. The demon was gnawing at my legs, and he passed by me indifferently. A moment later, he turned back, meeting my gradually unfocused eyes, and asked in surprise, "Still alive?" If not for the faint rise and fall of my chest, everyone would have thought I was already a corpse. He Wujie eliminated those demons and carefully examined all the wounds on my body. He sighed with regret. A natural sword heart, truly a promising talent for cultivation. It's a pity that the golden core was dug out, the spiritual roots were completely destroyed, and even the sword bone was stripped away. Who on earth hates you so much? If I had come earlier, I might have been able to save your life, but now it's too late. My consciousness gradually blurred. I tried countless times to open my mouth with great effort, but couldn't utter a single word. Only a tear weakly trailed down the side of my face. He Wujie personally closed my eyes for me. Before I completely lost my breath, I heard his nonchalant voice, "If there is a next life, come find me then. Those grudges, I will settle them for you. Consider it a moment of compassion on my whim." Snapping out of my memories, I saw a terrifying aura radiating from He Wujie. It was as if an invisible giant hand instantly pressed Lenny Lu and the other two firmly to the ground. The Master and Jace Sai had already given all their defensive magical tools to Lenny Lu, but they themselves couldn't withstand the immense pressure and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Lenny Lu didn't even glance at them, instead looking up at He Wujie, a trace of barely noticeable infatuation flashing in her eyes. She concealed this emotion well, widening her almond-shaped eyes to put on a stubbornly defiant, yet charmingly naive appearance. "So you are the Demon Lord. Truly a bloodthirsty and murderous fiend, to have slaughtered so many innocent disciples of my Spirit Sword sect. Even if the Spirit Sword sect is left with only a few of us, I, Lenny Lu, will never yield to a great demon like you." He Wujie glanced at her with great interest. "Oh, you'd rather die than submit." Seeing his reaction, Lenny Lu's eyes lit up, knowing she had chosen the right approach. Suppressing the wild joy in my heart, I let out a light hum and emphasized, "Of course. Since ancient times, good and evil have been irreconcilable, not to mention that I was raised by the Spirit Sword sect since childhood and have always abhorred evil. I despise people like you the most, those who kill the innocent indiscriminately." She was still waiting for He Wujie to take an interest in her and play out some forceful conquest scenario. Unfortunately, the next second, He Wujie stepped on her head. With just a slight exertion of force, he pressed her entire face into the dust. A mocking smile appeared on the man's handsome face. "Just an ant. Who cares what you hate? What kind of #1 Spirit Sword sect is this? Nothing but a bunch of trash, unworthy of my personal intervention. Since only 3 of you remain, I'll take you all back to the demon's lair. Only by keeping you alive to suffer eternal torment will the cultivation world remember the humiliation I have bestowed upon you." After saying this, he turned around and prepared to leave. Several demonic cultivators stepped forward to restrain the 3 and also prepared to withdraw. The master's gaze swept over the hundreds of demonic cultivators present, knowing that there was no way for them to escape now. Can only send a message to Lenny Lu. Fortunately, Eden Ling isn't here. As long as she escapes, she can send word to other immortal sects, gathering people to come rescue us. We just need to wait quietly. But Lenny Lu's eyes darted, and she suddenly began to struggle. There are still people in the Spirit Sword sect. It's not just the 3 of us who survived. There's also a woman named Eden Ling, not to mention our master. Even Jace Sai didn't expect Lenny Lu to give me away. Immediately, I looked at her in astonishment. "Lenny, you..." But Lenny Lu turned a blind eye to the disappointment and shock in their eyes, shouting recklessly, "Everything I said is true, although I don't know where she's hiding now. She's been struck by the love poison and definitely can't run far. She must be hiding somewhere nearby. Quickly send people to find her." Upon hearing this, He Wujie didn't even turn his head and stepped back into the rift once more. The demonic cultivator restraining Lenny Lu also knew she had angered the demon lord and promptly slapped her twice across the face. "Shut up, without the lord's permission, who allowed you to speak out of turn?" Watching this group of people disappear from my sight, I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Having feasted on the drama to my heart's content, I stood up feeling satisfied. But then, a warm chest pressed against my back. I was so frightened that I immediately turned around, only to find He Wujie's handsome face almost pressed right in front of me. I froze, hearing his teasing voice say, "So, was the show good?" He Wujie didn't give me a chance to refuse and took me back to the demon's lair. Only, I was arranged to stay in a side hall. Lenny Lu and the other two were locked in a water dungeon. It is said that during the day, they were suspended in mid-air, just half an inch above a pool filled with blood-sucking leeches. They had to use all their strength to curl up their legs, otherwise they would be bitten by the leeches, which would suck away nearly half of their blood. In the cold evenings, they were lowered and tightly locked into the icy water, which rose up to their necks. Leeches were replaced with piranhas, which would bite any living creature they saw moving. Even if they tried to control their movements, they couldn't stop their bodies from shivering uncontrollably from the cold. In just one night, their legs were gnawed down to nothing but bare bones. Early the next morning, when they were pulled out of the pool, the skilled medical cultivators hired by He Wujie would arrive to heal the injuries they had suffered the day before. If these three still had their cultivation, such torment would be nothing. But they had long become useless individuals, having lost all their cultivation due to the effects of the love poison and being seduced by Lenny Lu into breaking their vows, repeating this cycle. It didn't take long for Lenny Lu to completely break down, begging to see He Wujie. I had wanted to go and watch the excitement earlier, but He Wujie ordered that I couldn't go anywhere until it was confirmed that all the love poison in my body had been neutralized. I had no choice but to wait patiently for over half a month before finally going to the water dungeon with him by my side. I hid in the corner and watched as he walked in first. Although Master and Jace Sai looked haggard, they still had the strength to glare with eyes full of resentment. Lenny Lu, however, couldn't endure even a second of the torment. The moment he saw He Wujie, he started shouting frantically, "Demon Lord, by all accounts, I am your ally. You can't treat me like this. If it weren't for my plan to break into the secret realm and make the entire Spirit Sword sect fall under the ancient love poison lovesick ashes, how could you have so easily slaughtered the entire Spirit Sword sect? I am nothing like these hypocritical righteous cultivators. I did all this to follow you." The Master and Jace Sai were as if they had been struck on the head with a club, completely stunned. Lenny, what are you talking about? What do you mean everything you did was just to follow He Wujie, that utterly wicked demon?" Lenny Lu snorted coldly, exactly what it sounds like. "Back then, I only put aside my pride to coax you because I saw that your cultivation levels were decent and you could become my pillars in the sect. All my efforts to portray Eden Ling as a fickle, malicious, and jealous woman were in vain, just to snatch you away from her side. And yet, you two fickle fools have ended up as useless. The once obedient and adorable junior sister had transformed into someone completely unfamiliar to them. The Master and Jace Sai were utterly devastated. Only now did they understand what Lenny Lu meant, their faces suddenly turning deathly pale. "Could it be that Eden Ling isn't at all like what you described? Was it all just rumors you fabricated?" Lenny Lu looked utterly impatient. "Can't you understand plain language? It's all thanks to you so easily believing my words that my plan to destroy the Spirit Sword sect could proceed so smoothly. But now you're just useless, of no use to me at all. Shut up, you useless person, don't talk to me." She then turned her head and looked at He Wujie with a hopeful expression. "Lord Demon Sovereign, I even sacrificed my innocence for this plan. Everything I said is from the heart. Please believe me." He Wujie had no intention of paying any attention to Lenny Lu. Shifting his gaze to the corner, he spoke in an inexplicable tone, still watching. "Haven't you seen enough?" Lenny Lu didn't know who he was talking to, but she had a bad feeling in her heart. When she saw me walk out from the corner and stand beside He Wujie, that premonition came true. She didn't bother to continue trying to please He Wujie. In her shock, she even forgot to lift her leg. After being bitten hard by a blood-sucking insect, the pain twisted her face, and she screamed in a sharp voice, "Eden Ling, how could you be here, even if you weren't caught? You would have died from the heart-burning pain of the love poison. How could you appear here, and standing beside the demon lord? How dare you?" Unlike Lenny Lu's hysteria, the master and Jace Sai, after learning that everything before was Lenny Lu's scheme to frame me, were already filled with immense guilt. Now seeing me, a trace of inexplicable emotion flickers in his eyes. Eden Ling, I'm glad you're okay. Don't worry, we will definitely find a way to rescue you from this hellhole." Rescue? I retort. Why would I want to be rescued? I'm not like you all. You were captured as prisoners to be tortured, but I was invited here as He Wujie's friend. Upon hearing me say the word friend, my master's face suddenly darkened. Eden Ling, do you have any idea what you're saying? How can you consider someone like He Wujie, a ruthless murderer, as your friend? If any righteous cultivator heard this, they would label you as a demonic practitioner. I'll pretend I didn't hear it this time, but you must never say it again. Jace Sai also nodded repeatedly. Exactly, since we now know that the previous incidents were all misunderstandings. Let's just consider it water under the bridge and start over. After all, we are betrothed to each other. Once we successfully return to the Spirit Sword sect, how about we proceed with our marriage? This time, before I could even call him a daydreamer, He Wujie made his move. He moved with incredible speed, drawing his sword just an inch from its scabbard, and the blade's gleam shot straight toward Jace Sai. The next second, Jace Sai let out an agonizing scream. A chunk of pink flesh fell from his mouth into the pool, and the bloodworms, drawn by the scent of blood, churned excitedly up and down. He trembled all over in pain, then heard He Wujie's emotionless voice ring out again. "A tongue that cannot speak has no reason to exist." My master looked at me, hoping I would recognize He Wujie's cruelty from this, but I completely ignored the terrified Jace Sai, smiling as I pulled a pill from my sleeve. This is a pill that can cause one to fall into demonic cultivation. Those who consume it will experience a significant increase in their cultivation, but they will also risk chi deviation, completely lose their way, and become demonic cultivators hunted by all righteous practitioners. I'm giving you a chance to make a choice. You can take it yourselves, or you can feed it to someone else. Only those who consume it will receive my. Before I could finish my sentence, He Wujie tugged at my sleeve and gave a light cough. I had no choice but to add helplessly, "Gain the trust of both me and He Wujie. The remaining people can be left entirely to his discretion, whether to release or kill them." Seeing how familiar I was with He Wujie, our master and Jace Sai felt a pang in their hearts. Their eyes unconsciously clouded with pain. I couldn't be bothered to care about them. After placing the elixir on the ground, they turned and left together with He Wujie, only leaving behind a sentence, "I'll leave you the rest of the night to consider. I hope to see a satisfactory answer from you tomorrow." That night, each of the three harbored their own ulterior motives, all pondering who should take this elixir. But in the latter half of the night, a barrier quietly enveloped the entire water prison, ensuring that no commotion would escape. The master opened his eyes sharply, just in time to see the wall being smashed through, revealing a large hole. Several people dressed in white, clearly righteous cultivators, barged in. The elder at the head, upon seeing him, immediately came to untie him and Jace Sai, "Immortal Venerable, we rushed here as soon as we received the message. We hope we're not too late. We have also found the divine artifact that can reshape your and young friend Jace's cultivation. Once you two have rested and recovered, we will storm the demon's lair and take the demon lord's head." The group whispered a few more words, temporarily confirming the battle plan, and decided to leave under the cover of night. Seeing that neither her master nor Jace Sai had glanced back at her, Lenny Lu immediately grew anxious. "Master, senior brother, aren't you taking me with you? I am your junior sister, and also a member of the righteous cultivators." Earlier, all those words were just a delaying tactic to deceive that great demon. They were all lies. "Please, save me too." The master turned and gave Lenny Lu a cold glance, then drew his sword and cut the chains binding her arms. Thinking the master had softened his heart, Lenny Lu quickly scrambled out of the pool on all fours and reached out to grab the hem of his robe. Once again, they put on that pitiful expression that always made them feel sorry. "Master, I knew you cared for me the most." But the master brushed his sleeve aside and avoided Lenny Lu's outstretched hand. His lowered eyes held not a trace of emotion, his tone icy cold. "For the sake of our master-disciple relationship, I have severed these chains for you. But whether you stay or flee, and how you leave this demon's lair, has nothing to do with me. My master-disciple bond with you ends here. From now on, whenever we meet, you will only be an eternal enemy of the Spirit Sword sect." After saying this, he turned and left without mercy, accompanied by several cultivators. Only Lenny Lu was left behind, covered in wounds. Kneeling on the ground in a wretched state, the tears she had once feigned for pity now fell in large, genuine drops, her hands gradually clenched, her fingertips scraping the ground, leaving trails of blood. Yet Lenny Lu seemed oblivious to the pain, her throat emitting strange, sobbing laughter. "Fine, fine. Since you show no mercy today, don't blame me for being ruthless in the future." She slowly raised her head. The moonlight streaming through the cave entrance illuminating the ferocious expression on her face. After a long while, she reached out and picked up the pill lying quietly on the ground. "He Wujie told me the moment the master and Jace Sai escaped, I didn't send anyone to capture them, nor did I bother with Lenny Lu, who disappeared into the demon cave after that night. After all, He Wujie held a grand banquet to celebrate his slaughter of the Spirit Sword sect. Thoroughly humiliating the righteous cultivators, I also need to prepare to attend." On the day of the banquet, all the unorthodox demonic cultivators were invited to come. Countless people raised their glasses in congratulations. Congratulations to the demon lord for annihilating the Spirit Sword sect. "We've long been fed up with those hypocrites who pretend to be righteous." After 3 rounds of drinks, the demonic cultivators were thoroughly drunk. However, the barrier of the demon's lair was breached. A tremendous roar echoed as countless righteous cultivators charged in, brandishing their swords and striking without hesitation. The once peaceful banquet was thrown into complete chaos. The master and Jace Sai, along with several cultivators at the half-step divine transformation stage, charged straight toward He Wujie and me. I was about to draw my sword to defend myself. But they stopped in front of me, looking at me cautiously with a gentleness I had never seen before. "Eden Ling, we kept our word and came to take you back to the Spirit Sword sect." I frowned. "I remember telling you last time, I don't need your rescue, and I won't be going back with you." The expressions of the master and Jace Sai changed several times. In the end, they glared fiercely at He Wujie, gnashing their teeth. "Eden Ling is still young and not firm in her convictions. It's all because you, this demon, have bewitched her, making her willing to stay in this gloomy and terrifying demon's lair instead of returning with us. We will exterminate you now. Once you're dead, we can still take Eden Ling back and teach her the difference between good and evil in time." As soon as the words were spoken, several people summoned their life-bound magical artifacts, using every trick in the book to attack He Wujie. A myriad of spiritual energies flashed, and the clashing sounds of weapons rang out sharply. Without any hesitation, I drew my sword and charged at Jace Sai. Jace Sai never expected that I would side with He Wujie. He looked at me, a flicker of sorrow in his eyes. "Eden Ling, have you forgotten the bond we once shared? You're being deceived by He Wujie now. He's the madman who slaughtered our Spirit Sword sect," I retorted in confusion. "So what? In my previous life, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to the sect. Yet they discarded me like worn-out shoes. Instead, it was He Wujie, the villain they called utterly wicked, who gave me the last bit of warmth before my death." Is the line between good and evil, as defined by the world, truly so clear? Does it even matter who is righteous and who is evil? I said no more. Swinging my sword to slash at Jace Sai once again, he did not want to cross swords with me. Fighting while retreating, a familiar, charming voice suddenly rang out. "Master, senior brother. Have you come to save me?" Lenny Lu had no idea when she appeared here. She was still wearing the attire of a Lingjian sect disciple, her face pale, looking utterly terrified. Stumbling as she spoke, she moved closer to our side, trying to hide behind the master and Jace Sai as she used to. The people around temporarily let their guard down because of Lenny Lu's harmless appearance. Frowning and scolding, Which sect's disciple are you? Blades and swords have no eyes. Hurry and leave this place. Lenny Lu's eyes were red, and she repeatedly agreed, but just as she was about to reach my side, she suddenly drew a dagger from her sleeve and thrust it straight at me, shouting loudly, "Eden Ling, die!" I gave her a cold glance, neither dodging nor avoiding. Jace Sai's pupils contracted sharply at the sight. And without a second thought, he shielded me with his body. The dagger pierced through his heart, and the demonic energy on it quickly spread throughout his limbs. His face turned ashen. And without uttering a single word, he collapsed to the ground. Lenny Lu, looking utterly deranged, pulled out the dagger and charged at me again. My master had no choice but to temporarily break free from He Wujie, shielding me as he knocked the dagger from Lenny Lu's hand. Frowning angrily, he shouted, "Lenny Lu, have you lost your mind? You've caused the deaths of countless disciples of our spirit sword sect, and now you won't even spare Eden Ling. You're utterly beyond redemption. Since that's the case, I will cleanse our sect of you today and put an end to this scourge." As soon as he finished speaking, a long sword pierced through his chest. The master turned around in disbelief and saw my ice-cold face. "Eden Ling," disgusted, I wiped the blood splattered on my face, pulled out the sword, and stepped back a few paces, calling He Wujie, who was toying with a few white-bearded old men like a cat playing with mice. I immediately flew out of the demon cave's main hall. The master, ignoring the wound on his chest, quickly raised his sword and still wanted to chase after. Lenny Lu, however, held tightly onto his sleeve, a strange smile curling on her face. "Master, are you abandoning me? Are you leaving me behind again, when you took me as your disciple? Didn't you say you would cherish and protect me for a lifetime? It's time for you to keep your promise now." In the next instant, a tremendous explosion erupted as spiritual energy and demonic aura were compressed to their limits. The great hall of the demonic lair was instantly reduced to rubble. Everyone inside who failed to escape was turned to ashes by Lenny Lu's self-detonation, leaving no trace of their remains. So this is the ending she chose. She knew her cultivation foundation was very weak, and even though falling into demonic ways had increased her power, she couldn't cause much harm to her master and Jace Sai. That's why she used me as bait to lure them in. The righteous cultivators took the initiative to attack the demon's lair this time. But the results were not as expected. Countless combat strength was lost, with heavy casualties. It's estimated that it will take over 100 years of recovery before they can regain their momentum. He Wujie and I simply took this opportunity to travel and explore the mortal world. I deliberately stayed half a step behind him, following in his shadow. He Wujie, do you still remember something, like that promise you casually made to me in our past life? Otherwise, why would he help me so much? He Wujie let out a soft laugh, the tone drawn out, just like the teasing manner in which he spoke his first words to me. Who knows, I am not discouraged, after all. We still have endless time ahead of us. One day, I will get an answer from him. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away, the next one is even more exciting. My husband gave all the food coupons to his childhood friend, but he doesn't let me and the child go to her place for meals. You need to have some backbone. But Qingmai wanted to drink chicken soup, so he begged everyone, not wanting to maintain his pride. I was so hungry that I stumbled and fell into the river. When I was rescued and brought ashore, I had returned to the year of the blind date. My daughter begged me in tears, "I won't force you to go on blind dates anymore. If you like that college student, just marry him." Wait, I want to go on a blind date. When I was pulled ashore, I was still shivering. My mother was crying and wailing beside me, slapping herself. It turns out, I had returned to being 18 years old, to marry the college student Jiu Zhili. I resisted arranged blind dates and attempted suicide by jumping into a river. Jiu Zhili married me to save face. On the surface, we were a loving couple. He, with his high education, worked outside, while I took care of the daily chores, and our life was sweet. Behind the scenes, he gave all the ration tickets to the orphan Xiao Qingmai. He raised her to be fair-skinned and plump. My 3-year-old child and I were so hungry that our eyes turned pale. We went to the neighbor's house to help with work and beg for food. When Jiu Zhili came home and saw this, his eyes turned red with anger. In our Jiu family, we can go hungry, but we must never lose our integrity. Li Bao, is this how you act as the lady of the Jiu household? After scolding me, He took out a small bag of exquisite pastries from his pocket and stuffed them into my arms. His gentle face was now only cold, and his lips forced out a sentence, "Eat, eat, eat." That's all you ever think about after eating so much. It's still not enough. I recognized it. This was Qingmei's favorite brand of pastries, but with hunger taking over, the bitterness in my heart was firmly suppressed. My child and I ate as if we were enjoying a feast of delicacies. Even carefully licking the wrapping paper, Jiyu Zhili looked disgusted. I may be uneducated, but I still have my pride. I covered my little one's mouth and coaxed him to eat more slowly. Don't talk while eating or sleeping, or Daddy will get angry. But by midnight, the child cried out from hunger. Jiyu Zhili wasn't home. He had gone to Qingmei's place again. She was sick once more. I stumbled out to look for something to eat. Who would have thought that with one misstep, I fell into the river and traveled back in time. After hearing my words, my mother cried even more miserably. "Darling, you've got water in your brain." I finished my 7th bowl of rice. And my mother was dumbfounded. With red-rimmed eyes, she served me the 8th bowl. I instinctively called out for Xiaobao, telling him to eat too, but when I went back to the past, Xiaobao was gone too. I cried and hugged my mother. "My child is gone." She trembled and covered my mouth. "Unmarried girls shouldn't talk nonsense." Guess who I invited to our home? Jiyu Zhili arrived carrying a bag of fruit, his fair skin giving him a scholarly appearance, with thin lips, white teeth, and the cool, refined look of a scholar in his eyes and brows. "Li Bao, your mother sent me." It was the same in my past life. After I jumped into the river, Mother immediately called Jiyu Zhili to our home to discuss marriage. I asked for nothing else, only him. The whole town already knows that in this lifetime, I love only Jiyu Zhili, and he was also pressured to marry me, just like in the previous life. Mother held his hand and discussed the wedding date. I went straight over and returned the fruit to Jiyu Zhili. He was taken aback, frowned, and called out to me, "What do you mean? I won't marry you. Get out of my house. Don't you regret it?" Jiyu Zhili, with his unyielding pride, immediately stood up and left without looking back, yet his self-respect could be abandoned for his childhood sweetheart. When the rice jar at home was empty, and Qingmei had just recovered from a cold, she wanted some meat soup. The family's salary hadn't come in yet, and I saw Jiyu Zhili going door to door, begging for oil and meat, all just to brew a pot of hot soup for little Qingmei. As he bent down to beg, his originally straight and slender back curved, and his shirt tightened against his spine. "Thank you, I will definitely pay you back." He turned around and saw the two of us, mother and child, peeking at him through the crack in the door. Jiyu Zhili's ears turned red, and he scolded me fiercely when he came back that night. "You know the situation with Tingting's family. She became an orphan because she saved my parents. I promised them that I would always treat her as family. You're doing well, bringing little Bao to watch your father's embarrassment. What kind of mother are you?" I opened my mouth, but couldn't utter a single word for a long time. "But, the child and I are also your family." My mother snapped me out of my reverie. "Why are you throwing a tantrum with Xiao Jiyu? You don't even want to go on a blind date. The guy from the steel mill has good qualifications and is handsome." I agreed right away. "I'll go. Who said I wouldn't? In this life, I just want to fill my stomach. I don't need any damn love." I remember, back when I was with Jiyu Zhili and we often didn't know where our next meal would come from. There was a family in town who ate well and drank lavishly every day. It turned out to be the person I had missed out on from a blind date back then, seeing that I was willing to go on a blind date. My mother immediately slipped some money into my hand. "Hurry up and get some new clothes made, even if it's just to spite Xiao Jiyu. A young lady should look nice and neat." My hunger got the better of me, so I exchanged some coupons for a chicken leg. After eating, I walked into a nearby shop and picked out a Dacron floral dress. It was cheap and pretty. Just as I pulled out the money, a pair of hands snatched the clothes. The girl had plump cheeks, clearly well pampered at first glance. She was Jiyu Zhili's childhood friend, Liu Ting. Holding up the dress, she said to Jiyu Zhili beside her, "I want this one, it's so pretty." Jiyu Zhili's gaze was fixed intently on Qingmei's face. Not noticing me, he smiled gently. "Good, it suits you well. Go ahead and buy it. This young lady bought it first. You should ask her." The shopkeeper spoke up to remind them, and only then did the two of them look at me properly. Jiyu Zhili's face instantly turned cold. "Are you following me?" Liu Ting also shrank closer to him and timidly called out, "Hello, Sister Li, if you like it, you can take it, I'll give it to you." Ji Yuzhili frowned, snatched the dress, and stuffed it into Qingmei's arms. "She's already pitiful enough, and you're still taking Tingting's things. That's too much. I'm full and in a good mood." So I asked the shopkeeper to wrap up another dress. "Oh, if you like it, go ahead and buy it." But Liu Ting took a liking to the new one I just picked, Zhili. "This one seems to suit the competition better, Tilda." Ji Yuzhili looked at me and reached out his hand. "Be sensible, Li Bao. This competition is very important to Tingting. But this dress is very important to me too." He sighed almost imperceptibly. "Don't make a fuss. How about I take you to the park this weekend?" This was the way Ji Yuzhili gave me a way out. In my previous life, to go on dates with him, I repeatedly let his childhood sweetheart bully me, because I also considered her as family. But on the first night of my marriage to Ji Yuzhili, Liu Ting called my husband away to catch a mouse in her house. I was left alone with the red candles, waiting until dawn. But I like Ji Yuzhili so much that I only feel I haven't fulfilled my duties as a wife. Now, as Ji Yuzhili reached out to take the dress, I instinctively pushed his hand away. "I told you, I want it." Ji Yuzhili was also angry. He frowned with his handsome brows, comforting Liu Ting in his arms. "What could you possibly be wearing that to attend that's more important than Tingting's dance performance? This will affect her entire life. Don't be unreasonable." I tightly clutched the package in my hands. "This is for a blind date. Isn't my marriage a big deal too?" Ji Yuzhili suddenly fell silent, his lips tightened, and he released the hand that was holding Qingmei. "What blind date? How come I didn't know about it?" Liu Ting burst into laughter. "Brother Ji Yu, sister must be joking. The whole town knows she jumped into the river for you. Who would dare to take her? She must be doing it to upset you. Don't I know a girl's heart?" After saying this, she covered her mouth, her deer-like eyes blinking. "Was I too honest? Sorry, sister, for exposing your true feelings." Ji Yuzhili also looked as if he understood. He said expressionlessly and coldly, "Li Bao, I'll be honest too, you're not suited to wearing skirts, broad-shouldered and round-waisted. It's a waste of fabric, and that scar on your calf isn't very becoming either." Scars were the beginning of our story. Ji Yuzhili saved me. During the mudslide, my leg was pinned under a rock. A group of young people were frantically running downhill, but one of them went against the flow, pushing through the crowd. That was the first time I met Ji Yuzhili. He didn't look like a farmer, his arms were pale and thin, but he used all his strength to move the stone and pulled me up to run. Don't worry about me, to save me." His right arm was injured for several months. "I have a scar on my calf too. Doctors all say this scar won't go away." I felt insecure and didn't dare wear skirts anymore, so Ji Yuzhili had someone send me an ointment. There was a letter attached to it. I can't read well, so I had someone read it to me. "Comrade Li Bao. Appearance is just superficial, health comes first. Scars are a testament to your bravery." With flushed cheeks, I thought he liked me too. I don't enjoy reading and can barely recognize a few big characters, yet I followed him and copied books for months. She carefully traced his name. The crooked handwriting made him the butt of jokes among his companions. "Ji Yuzhili, you've got an admirer." Ji Yuzhili sternly reminded me to come by less often in the future. I still prefer to prop my chin on my hand and watch him read and write from the side. It wasn't until Ji Yuzhili's neck turned red that I left with a smile. Soon, his childhood sweetheart also came to this town. Liu Ting held on to Ji Yuzhili, smiling brightly and generously. "We grew up together. Brother Ji Yu has always taken care of me. Did you know, he loves sweets the most, especially the ones I make." Ji Yuzhili's gaze also fell on the girl. "He told us to get along well and take good care of our childhood friend." To win Ji Yuzhili's favor, I often learned to cook from Liu Ting. She would accidentally hit my face with the firewood and then apologize in tears. The clothes I hung out to dry for Ji Yuzhili often ended up falling into the mud by her accident. I couldn't help but ask Ji Yuzhili if his sister disliked me, but he gave me a strange look. "No wonder Tingting said that about you. You're really too petty. You should read more books." In my past life, I was foolish and broke up a match made in heaven. In this life, I will let them be together. On the day of the blind date, I didn't wear a skirt. I wore trousers to cover the scar on my calf. We agreed to meet at the recording studio. From a distance, I spotted my blind date wearing a small suit. The eldest son of the old steel factory director, Lin Ao, he took 2 bottles of the highly sought-after soda and a bag full of food, with thick eyebrows, bright eyes, and a handsome, generous appearance. He exuded an unstoppable air of confidence. In my previous life, I saw him in the newspaper. It was the news of his death. In my memory, Lin Ao was lame. Because of this old injury, after rescuing the employees, Lin Ao was pinned under a steel plate and couldn't free himself. As the person approached, he smiled brightly. "Li Bao, hello." They chatted as they walked, and many people looked their way along the path. They whispered among themselves. "Isn't this the one from the Li family who jumped into the river? So shameless, she's hooked up with someone else again. I heard she jumped into the river to threaten someone into marrying her because she was pregnant." Having gone hungry, my face has grown thicker. So I just asked Lin Ao if we were still going to eat later. "If I don't go, I'll just go home." After all, with a bad reputation, it's normal for a blind date to fall through. Lin Ao, however, stubbornly charged into the crowd. Show some respect, she was doing a good deed that day. My old yellow dog was actually saved by Li Bao. If you don't believe me, come to my house and ask it yourself. But Comrade Li is too modest and doesn't want to make a fuss. I never expected that lies would be made up about it. Tell me, who is the eyewitness? I was taken aback, remembering that when I jumped into the river, only my mother was actually there. But she went to find Jiyu Zhili, and Liu Ting also heard about it. Rumors began to spread. Lin Ao turned back and gave me a determined look. "You saved my family's dog, our great benefactor. From now on, you are also a benefactor of the Lin family." The old factory director's family has a good reputation, so when everyone saw Lin Ao speaking, they believed about 70 to 80% of it. So that's how it is. The Li family girl is straightforward. She wouldn't jump into a river over a man, right? She's always doing good deeds. I don't know why Lin Ao stepped in to help me out. After quelling the rumors, he quickly walked over to my side, his face serious. "How about it? Am I handsome?" I laughed so hard I was shaking like a flower branch. No wonder he's cut out for business in the future. His eloquence is impressive. Lin Ao handed over a handkerchief, his ears turning very red. Our hands touched, and we immediately pulled away as if shocked by electricity. From a distance, Jiyu Zhili stood in place, staring at me. The drink bottle in his hand was being squeezed out of shape by his palm. I'm thinking, should I have a Jianbing Guozi or a Rujiamo with Lin Ao? Just as I was about to ask Lin Ao, he took a step back. "Li Bao, Jiyu Zhili isn't worthy of you, but I respect your wishes. If you like him, go ahead. I can watch the tapes alone, and I won't feel lonely eating chips and drinking soda by myself." My pursuit of Jiyu Zhili is something many people know about. No wonder Lin Ao would think that way. He picked up a soda by himself, grabbed a box of fried chicken and fries, and walked into the screening room with his head down, looking back every few steps. It was quite pitiful, fragrant. Jiyu Zhili sneered coldly and also turned to leave, but his steps were particularly slow. As if waiting for someone. Could it be that he's waiting for me? I frantically swallowed my saliva. How could there be any hesitation? I turned and ran straight toward Lin Ao. I refuse to live a life where no one cares if I go hungry. Jiyu Zhili deliberately walked very slowly. He knew that Li Bao would surely catch up and try to persuade him to stay. The sound of the girl's footsteps grew closer. Someone tugged at the hem of his clothes, and Jiyu Zhili cleared his throat. "Heh, I knew you would follow." Looking back, it was an unfamiliar girl. She handed over a flyer. "Sir, it's a newly released romance film. You can bring your partner to watch it. Girls are sure to love it." Jiyu Zhili was taken aback and looked around for Li Bao, but she was nowhere to be seen. He hastily caught the flyer, which showed a man and a woman gazing at each other affectionately. Jiyu Zhili didn't know what madness had come over him as he ran toward the room where the cassette tape was playing, by the faint light. He saw Li Bao sitting together with the guy from the blind date, shoulders only a few centimeters apart. What a disgrace. She lowered her head, eating fried chicken, with dimples dancing on her smiling face, eyes filled with happiness and love. Just by looking at the food, her affection for this unfamiliar man overflowed. Jiyu Zhili wanted to rush in and hit someone, but reason held him back. Li Bao must be acting to provoke him. It must be so, a little girl's game. How old is he to still take it seriously? Take a deep breath. I can't lose my composure. Li Bao is just taking advantage of the fact that I like her, acting without any restraint. If he's already being controlled by his wife before marriage, what kind of man is he? In a few days at the town dance, Li Bao will definitely come to make amends. After the blind date, I am very satisfied with Lin Ao. He is perfect in every way, except that he has a short life, but he is so good that I want to help him. Good people should live long lives. After dinner, it was very noisy outside. I was about to wash up and go to bed when my mother reminded me, Li Bao, didn't you make plans to go to the town dance hall with someone tonight? You've been nagging me every day to remind you, and you even wrote it on the calendar. She took out that Dakran plaid dress. Here, wear this, it looks so good and suits you perfectly. I remembered that before I jumped into the river. I had already asked Jiyu Zhili to be my dance partner. Having lived a second life, I had long forgotten about this matter. Mom, I'm going to sleep, I can't be bothered to go, she sighed and tore off the calendar page. July 23rd passed so quickly. Tomorrow is. I suddenly sat up. That day, there was a stampede accident on the street near the dance hall. I finally remembered how Lin Ao became lame. I hurriedly put on a skirt and rushed out the door, shoes on my feet. The shops along the street were all hung with lanterns. Young men and women gathered together, ready to enter the dance hall. I gasped for breath, scanning the crowd around me, searching for Lin Ao's figure. What was he doing here in the middle of the night? There was a person standing at the entrance of the hall. He was only wearing a crisp, clean shirt, with his hair meticulously combed. Jiyu Zhili glanced at his wristwatch and, upon seeing me, spoke in a flat tone. I thought you were going to break your promise. It's about to start. Let's go. His fingers felt somewhat warm as they clasped my palm. I broke free and quickly apologized. Jiyu Zhili, I have something to do. Find someone else. Jiyu Zhili's hand paused in his pocket, and he gritted his teeth. Li Bao, what do you mean? Playing hard to get. Think carefully. I don't like overly delicate people. If you keep throwing a tantrum, we shouldn't see each other anymore. Jiyu Zhili finished in one breath. The tip of his nose slightly red. Sure enough, he saw the girl's expression shift as she reached out her hand. Jiyu Zhili felt a weight lift from his heart. He knew she liked him. She had been acting all along, and now she had given herself away. He raised his hand to take hers. I brushed off Jiyu Zhili's annoying hand and rushed straight into the ballroom. Lin Ao was chatting with a girl, looking completely absorbed. I stopped across from them, feeling a pang of bitterness in my heart. On the day the blind date ended, he even promised to treat me to a homemade pork knuckle. Seems like that's not happening now. I can only mooch off his wedding banquet and pack a few extra servings. The girl poked him and then pointed at me. Lin Ao looked over and exclaimed in surprise, "You really came? Would you like to dance with me?" I immediately declined. "Your female companion is right here. Isn't this inappropriate? Comrade Lin, please show some self-respect," the girl screamed. "Sister-in-law, you've got it all wrong. I was just called here to prepare a gift for you." Lin Ao covered his sister's mouth and pushed her aside. "Li Bao, you look very beautiful today. A perfect match for me." I used my skirt to cover the scar on my leg. Lin Ao opened his eyes wide in amazement. "Good heavens. Such a large area. You must have been very brave back then. This pattern looks like a butterfly." I felt my eyes welling up under the gaze of his radiant eyes. Indeed. How could someone who likes you not tolerate a scar? Holding his hand, we stepped onto the dance floor. In my past life, I danced this dance with Jiyu Zhili, but when he stepped on my shoes, he coldly said, "You're so foolish." So, I was jumping cautiously, but Lin Ao lowered his head and blinked. "What are you doing?" "I'm not a fragile little doll." The noise outside was loud. Lin Ao was not caught in danger. His legs were perfectly fine, but I felt uneasy inside. If I said there would be a stampede outside, would Lin Ao believe me? Would he think I'm crazy? I mustered up the courage and whispered a made-up dream into his ear. "It might be unsafe outside, for children and the elderly. Can we do something to stop it? You might think I'm crazy." Lin Ao's eyes flickered, and he smiled as he led me out of the dance floor. "Of course I believe you. We can dance together. It's a miracle from a dream. Anyway, we'll have plenty of chances in the future." Before the midnight bell rang, everyone returned home safely. Lin Ao and I sat back to back at the door of the broadcasting room. Just now, he spoke clearly and authoritatively. Using a loudspeaker to direct the crowd, I gave him feedback on the situation of the nearby streets. The staff who arrived criticized us for causing trouble, but it was just a well-intentioned warning. When Lin Ao and I went downstairs, Jiu Zhili had already been standing downstairs for a long time. His hair was damp with the mist of the night, his face darker than the moonlight. Li Bao, let's go home. Your mother sent me to get you. On the way, I kept looking at my watch. At midnight, Lin Ao told me to look up at the sky, saying there would be a surprise, as fireworks bloomed across the sky. I couldn't help but feel a softness in my heart, but Ji usually squeezed my hand until it hurt. Do you like this kind of thing? Then he didn't speak the whole way, just held my hand, and I couldn't break free. I'm home, let go. He looked devastated, forcing out a smile. Li Bao. I won't be worse than him in the future. I'm educated, and I can give you a good life too. Do not be vain. Those things are false. I only asked one question, if I want to drink meat soup, but there's no food at home. Would you go from door to door begging for it? He opened his mouth. Li Bao, that would never happen. Are you hungry? I'll go buy food right now. A scholar must have integrity and not forsake dignity for a bit of food, but in his previous life, for the sake of his childhood sweetheart, Ji usually did just that. I closed the door. Ji usually's figure remained outside for most of the night. Finally, they left after all. Lin Ao slapped his leg, deciding to go study abroad. After saying this, he took the ring out of the box and knelt on one knee, imitating the people on TV. Li Bao, will you come with me? Everything happened too suddenly. I barely know how to read, and I only recently learned Lin Ao's name. Going out like this would bring shame to the family. Let's just forget it, don't waste the money. But Lin Ao is stubborn. Once he sets his mind on something, he won't waver. I've got the tickets. What if you stay here and run off with someone else, even if you don't go to study? You should still keep me company. He brought over a few books. Learn a bit of a foreign language in the short term. You have plenty of time to improve. I'll always be with you. If you don't learn to read or study, you won't even be able to understand the menu and you'll go hungry. With Lin Ao's words, I forced myself to memorize many Chinese characters, and every night before sleeping, I would recite and study the language. He called every night before bed to encourage me. You're amazing. Truly impressive. With this kind of perseverance, you can succeed at anything. Getting my junior high school diploma at an older age, I was overjoyed to tears and hugged Lin Ao. Heaven knows how much hair I've lost, but Lin Ao's school made a last-minute adjustment, so he left before I did. Li Bao, I love you. I pondered his foreign words, but the plane roared and took off into the sky. What came faster than next month was Liu Ting, with red eyes. She said Jiu Zhili was injured and would soon leave the town, wanting to see me. Sister Li, don't be so heartless. When I arrived in the courtyard, Jiu Zhili was nowhere to be seen. Liu Ting waved her hand and called out a few street thugs. Ruin this woman's mind. Why should she get to live a good life? Before the stick came down, someone shielded me desperately. Jiu Zhili groaned and fell to the ground. Liu Ting screamed and fled with the group. Not even sparing a glance for her childhood friend on the ground, my mind went blank, and even after carrying him to the hospital, it was still buzzing. Family member, he's unconscious. Come sign the confirmation form. Take good care of your husband during this time. My mind was in chaos. And I didn't explain our relationship. Jiu Zhili, with gauze wrapped around his head, lay quietly in bed, breathing steadily. I was supposed to go see Lin Ao tomorrow morning, given the situation. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my word. Lin Ao was angry all day, and the next day, he made an overseas call. Li Bao, hire someone to take care of him. Don't see him all the time. Jiu Zhili is sly and cunning. I sent you a postcard. It might take a while to arrive. Make sure to write back to me. I didn't expect him to be so persistent, so I smiled and agreed, promising I wouldn't go see Jiu Zhili again. Just as I was about to leave, Jiu Zhili woke up. He grabbed my hand, his voice strained. Li Bao, are you hurt? I'm fine. But Jiu Zhili was in the hospital for half a month and just woke up. The Jiu family sent a message asking me to look after him since they couldn't make it here right away due to the long distance. After all, he got hurt because of me, so I politely asked, shall I hire a caregiver to look after you? Jiu Zhili's eyes flickered with a glimmer of light. Li Bao, can you stay with me? My head still hurts. It really hurts. I swallowed the words of refusal that were on the tip of my tongue. During the days Ji usually was injured, I actually gained a few pounds. I pushed the wheelchair, following his wishes, going out to sunbathe every day, and having 3 meals a day plus a midnight snack. The one who caused all this didn't come to see him even once. Ji usually said he would make up for Liu Ting's mistake and was willing to give everything he had. Ting has done me a favor. I owe her, even at a time like this. Ji usually still favors his childhood friend. I praised him. You really are a great brother, Ji. But he didn't catch my meaning, his ears turning red. You can call me that too. After being hit on the head, Ji usually's brain might really have a problem. In the middle of the night, he poked me awake. Wanting to go to the recording studio to watch a midnight movie, the ad says it's the most exciting at night. Ji usually described what the girl handing out flyers had said. His eyes sparkled under the moonlight, and I thought, let this be the last time. In our previous life, we never got to watch a movie together, but there we were, sitting in our seats, watching the man and woman on the screen kiss each other. Ji usually choked up and covered my eyes. Don't look. Even though we had a child together before, Ji usually's face is now flushed red. It's as if we still like each other. On the way, Ji usually got cold, so I pushed him to go home and get some clothes. He is changing clothes next door. I'm bored, looking around the room. Everything here is very familiar to me. In my previous life, when Ji usually went out to work, I and the child would wait here for him to return. A piece of paper had fallen on the floor by the desk. Out of habit, I picked it up and tidied the desk. Honestly, always leaving things lying around. As I put it back into the drawer, I noticed a thick stack of unsent letters inside. I couldn't read before, so I had never taken a close look at Ji usually's drawer. The envelope is addressed to Li Bao. My heart suddenly tightened. I dreamed that we had a child. I must be crazy. How could I let you and the child go hungry? In the dream, Ting said your cooking isn't good, and you used up all the food coupons. To her, she will deliver meals to the home. Did she lie to me? There must be some misunderstanding, but nothing has happened yet, and Li Bao will like me again. Looking back, the earliest letter was from the day of the mudslide, the date he saved me. Every few days, there were letters written to me, like keeping a diary. Ji usually filled an entire drawer. I remember, after we got married, he wouldn't let me touch the wooden box. You can't read anyway. Don't look. I felt somewhat dazed. Did Ji usually ever like me? Why not love me a little more? When I came back, I acted as if nothing had happened. He looked at the tidied desk and naturally called me by my nickname. Your eyes are red. Do you want to put on an extra layer of clothing? I'm going out and leaving. Comrade Ji, I'm going to accompany my fiancé. It's still important to maintain some distance between men and women. His shoulders tensed, and he said hoarsely, what are you talking about? Nothing is settled yet. Lin Ao isn't the right person for you. You need to seriously think it over again. Think about it. Tell me where I didn't do well, and I'll change. Please, look at me again. I shook my head. Have you remembered something? The river was really cold that day. I was very hungry. And Xiao Guori was very hungry too. After I die, my child will have no mother. What should I do? Ji usually's eyes reddened as he knelt down in front and slapped himself several times. Choking back sobs, he grabbed the hem of my pants as I was about to leave. I mercilessly pulled it away. Lin Ao sent me a postcard, the Eiffel Tower, and parks of various colors. His language is playful, sprinkled with a few foreign phrases, like a riddle. Is this the pointy tower you wanted to see? The scenery is quite nice, and the materials used. I'll make one for you back at the factory too. Small model. Remember to reply. In the past, Ji usually was busy and asked me to take good care of the family. Sometimes when he went on business trips, he would always give half of the local specialties he brought back to Chiang Mai, and the rest would be for me and the child. The child saw some travel photos from outside and keeps clamoring to go. His favorite is an Eiffel Tower puzzle that Ji usually once gave him. Xiaobao said that when he grows up, he will take me to see it together. While writing the reply, I suddenly paused in thought. By the way, I've never talked about these things with Lin Ao. How did he know? I took my flight ticket and got ready to go find Lin Ao to ask for an answer. People were whispering to each other on the way. I heard that someone had thrown themselves into the river near the town. What's on that college student's mind? It's almost winter, and he just jumped in wearing a shirt. He can't even swim, and now he's still in there, refusing to come out. I heard his heart broken over a relationship. They looked at me with speculative expressions. By the time they arrived, Jiu Zhili was already pale and had been dragged out of the water. His lips were trembling. "It's really cold. It must have been so hard for you back then." The first time I saw Jiu Zhili lose his composure, he cried until his eyes were bloodshot. "I have nearly drowned twice. Once for him, and another time for the child we had together." People around cast curious glances. The gossipy ones were already pleading for Jiu Zhili. "Li Bao, a man's knees are worth gold, and he's done this much for you. Give him a chance. Where else would you find such a devoted man? The Lin family may have a bit of stinky money, but they're not as promising as this one." Jiu Zhili also looked at me, his pride and backbone bending for me. Someone kicked Jiu Zhili aside. It was my mother. She grabbed my hand and pushed me toward the car. "Sweetie, we'll miss the tickets if we don't hurry. That Lin family boy will be crying and calling for you again in a bit." Jiu Zhili was kneeling behind, calling out to me, calling me mother. "There are so many girls outside the town. Surely there's one you like. Don't keep thinking about Li Bao. In this lifetime, I only recognize Lin Ao as my son-in-law." I no longer paid attention to the commotion behind me and ran with all my might toward where I needed to go. By the time autumn arrived, I was following Lin Ao around all day. In my previous life, it was in this very month that he had the accident. I kept watch from the beginning of the month until the end, but nothing happened. Until the new year, the business at the factory was booming more and more. Just as I let my guard down, someone called in the middle of the night, "Sister-in-law." Something happened at the factory. Someone's leg was crushed. My mind went blank, and my legs went weak. Rushing to the hospital, Lin Ao was standing perfectly fine in the lobby. He looked hesitant, not daring to let me in to see the injured. "It's Jiu Zhili." He was wandering around the factory and saved a child who was almost hit by a car, but his leg was crushed by a truck. "No matter how much it costs, the factory will cover it for him." Lin Ao, afraid that I would worry, said, "Don't worry, he's helping our factory's employees, and in turn, he's helping us." After all the twists and turns, the fate of a broken leg actually fell upon Jiu Zhili. Chiang Mai came to see him. I heard rumors that they got married and then divorced, and it was a very messy affair. Upon seeing Jiu Zhili's leg injury, Liu Ting was so frightened that she dropped the fruit basket and left. Jiu Zhili's eyes were very calm, showing neither sorrow nor joy. I came by a few times but didn't go in. Just left the supplies he needed. That day as I was leaving, Jiu Zhili called out to me, "Li Bao, are you outside?" I recognized your footsteps. He was sitting on the hospital bed, with a box of food beside it. "Li Bao, I always carry food with me, afraid that you might get hungry. They advised me not to come to see you, but I will sneak a look, wanting to know if you're doing well. I've already repaid what I owed Liu Ting. For the rest of my life, I only owe you." Jiu Zhili's face had more fine lines, and he lowered his head, only daring to look at my shoes. I put down the condolence money and whispered a message to him. After hearing it, Jiu Zhili's hands trembled, and he collapsed weakly onto the bed. He knew that we would never have a chance in this lifetime. This is what Jiu Zhili owes me, what he owes me and our child, a debt that can never be repaid. I don't want him to pay me back either. As soon as I stepped out, I ran toward the person waiting outside the exit. He was anxiously waiting outside, with a bright smile and in good health. "I have good news to share with Lin Ao." Extra, Lin Ao's dream. Lately, I keep dreaming of a child. It scared Lin Ao, who doesn't even have a girlfriend, to the point of fainting. As a materialist, he was so frightened that he went to a temple to make a wish. The old man interpreting the fortune slip looked at Lin Ao carefully. "Benefactor, what clings to you is not an evil spirit, but a blessing." From that moment on, Lin Ao often dreamed of that little child. He was very thin and small, with round, wide eyes. "Big brother, you will marry Li Bao in the future." Lin Ao was jolted awake with joy, because he had liked Li Bao for a long time, a girl from the town, who was rather careless in her actions. When they were kids, others would laugh at him, saying his whole family was full of tough guys, and Li Bao, who had just lost her front tooth, would slap them without hesitation. "My whole family is still illiterate." Lin Ao was shy and only dared to follow her like a shadow, but Li Bao grew up without studying, playing around all day like a monkey. Lin Ao was busy with his studies and had strict parents. By the time he wanted to contact Li Bao again, she already had Jiu Zhili by her side. Even Li Bao didn't recognize him. This playmate she had only met a few times, perhaps because he had changed so much as he grew up, becoming handsome. Beside her was Jiu Zhili, a university student who had come to the town for an internship. He was older than Li Bao, with a sharp, cunning appearance. Li Bao liked him very much and became his little follower. When the Li family was looking for a matchmaking candidate, Lin Ao was the first to hear about it and immediately stepped forward to recommend himself. However, because of this, Li Bao jumped into the river. That very night, Lin Ao tearfully called off the matchmaking. Loving someone means letting her be happy, but what right does Jiu Zhili have? Hearing that Li Bao had agreed to go on a blind date again, Lin Ao tearfully begged the matchmaker to help once more. On the day of the date, Lin Ao splurged on the trendiest new suit, got a fresh haircut, and even swiped some cologne from his family. On the way, he remembered the child from his dream saying, "Li Bao loves to eat, so make sure she's well fed. You need to learn to read, or she will suffer in the future, and you must treat her well." Lin Ao did everything as told, and Li Bao indeed began to like him. That Jiu Zhili was abandoned. For the first dance, Li Bao chose him, trusting him. Both the smile and the hand-holding felt warm. From that day on, the child in the dream gradually disappeared. Lin Ao wondered if this was their future child, a little lucky star, with features very much like Li Bao's, clever and full of mischief. The factory business is busy, and Lin Ao wants to broaden his horizons, study abroad, and return to shine and contribute to his country. Li Bao naturally had to go along as well. That child once secretly mentioned that Li Bao wanted to see the Eiffel Tower and experience the scenery of foreign lands. Lin Ao pooled his New Year's money to cover Li Bao's flight and living expenses, believing that the one he loves deserves everything. In the spring of the following year, when the flowers bloomed, Lin Ao and Li Bao got their marriage certificate. He never told Li Bao that he had nightmares. Dreaming of Jiu Zhili and Li Bao getting married and having children, he would limp drunkenly outside their wedding chamber, night after night. Occasionally, he would bring delicious food and secretly leave it at the door, only leaving the name of Li Bao's relative. In the dream, "I died before I was even 25. Waking up, Lin Ao was startled into a cold sweat, but beside him slept his beloved, Li Bao. Still drowsy, told him to sleep a little longer. Lin Ao held his wife tightly. This was real. The child from the dream never appeared again. The last time he saw the child, the little one smiled and said goodbye. "I have to go now. Little treasure loves you both very much. My last birthday wish is for you to be happy." That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.